So on today's episode of Walls Work When the Left Put Them Up, we got two instances of that, okay? So we don't really have too much of an update because they're still running through jury selection with the George Floyd, I guess, Derek Chauvin trial. Everybody knows it is. It's just the George Floyd trial at this point, right? Well, they're going through jury selection. Last time that I seen, they've got through about 30 different jurors at this point, and they've been thrown out, and it looks like it's going to be a fairly fair jury. Okay, people have been thrown out for being Black Lives Matter supporters. People have been thrown out for being Blue Lives Matter supporters. So I've got a little bit of faith, at least when it comes to that kind of stuff, that it's going to be a fair trial, but we're going to have to see what goes on. But in order to understand what's going on in Minneapolis right now, I was going to say Minnesota, but Minneapolis to be more specific, we got to take a look at what's going on right now and why some of those jurors are scared and requesting full anonymity, because there's another autonomous zone going on right now, and well, it's resulting in exactly what you'd expect to have happen. Death and autonomous zone grip George Floyd Square ahead of Chauvin trial. Why wouldn't there be? Why wouldn't there be? So, residents of the neighborhood where George Floyd lost his life in May, went to that giant fentanyl factory in the sky. Peace and quiet increasingly seem like a pipe dream. Grim tragedy erupted on Saturday night when another man died near what is now called George Floyd Square. Yes, a shooting in a zone where first responders, where police officers are not allowed to come in. Who could have saw that coming? Oh, literally in the Raz, the Chaz, the Yaz, the Spaz. I made the last one up. A grim tragedy erupted on Saturday night when another man died near what is being called George Floyd Square, obviously. An intersection of blocks that serves as a permanent vigil. Yes, and what a wonderful looking vigil that is. It definitely doesn't look like the city dump just overran a couple of city blocks. This time, no police were involved in the killing of a victim, who authorities said died after suffering multiple gunshot wounds. Yes, defund the police. Don't replace them with anybody competent so that all the murderers and criminals can have guns, just not the population. Makes sense, right? Kim, who serves as a medic for the autonomous zone. She's the one who had the most secret herbs and spices that they could rub on any of the wounds? Or was she the one who had the fanny pack full of band-aids? She also doubles as the agriculturalist. She knows the best cardboard that you can put your topsoil on top of so you can grow all the fruits and vegetables that you could need. Said she heard what sounded like 500 gunshots during her shift. Yes, this is all within the boundaries of the autonomous zone that is supposed to be free of those evil racist police officers, even though everybody who gets shot in these autonomous zones, especially in Chaz and then this one here, they're always black. So their police, or whatever they want to call it, and it's the exact same shit, has one hell of a race problem, I would say. I was first on the scene. Emotions are just so high right now. I've been awake for 36 hours. So, a competent healthcare provider. That's great. You picked the wrong day to come here. Kim said the man was black. Raise your hand if you're shocked. Authorities have not identified the victim. Makeshift barriers and gates surrounded George Floyd Square as of Sunday evening. They're still up, by the way. No white people were allowed access to the area by local activists out of supposed concern for the healing of the community, according to Kim. So they believe by healing through segregation, that's the only way that it's achieved. Didn't they listen to any of their grandparents about actual racism? Or I guess in these kids' cases, probably like what, great-great-grandparents? But this is also in Minnesota, one of the whitest states in the union. But then on the other side of that coin, it's also the only state that has exclusively voted Democrat for the past 50 years at this point. So to say they're cucked is a mild statement. Those passing by the barricades were waved along and asked to leave. Just the white ones, though. Or the ones who present as white, whatever the going phrase is. With those manning the gates treating their job as some sort of official duty. Listen, if we wanted to read any more propaganda of this overflowing dump, we could continue on and on. But yeah, Like I see, this is the shit that they're protecting. They got little toll booths set up. They've got a shooting. They've got multiple assaults. I'm sure that probably we're going to be getting another laundry list of different garden variety assaults, or maybe even a few sexual assaults sprinkled in there as well in the coming days, once this eventually gets torn down. Or, I don't know, Minneapolis is also a weird place, so who knows, it'll probably just continue to expand and this will be ground zero. Or maybe, yeah, they'll probably just keep it up so that all the ruckus can be concentrated to one little area. So when the verdict shows up within a month or two, they'll at least know which place to firebomb first. That might be the idea running through the city council and the police office department, or the police department right now. In my opinion, you should just enforce the laws. How about that? But yeah, they're being awfully effective, and I'm a little bit jealous of how little snow they have right now, because we just got dumped on last night up here. So we were just about at that level. Actually, yeah, we still had about 6 inches left in most places, but now we're back up to over a foot in most areas. So sucks to suck, but walls seem to be working in this instance. And you know where else they're working? At the Capitol itself. Okay? And they have just as much reason to be keeping them there as the idiots in Minneapolis do, because the Pentagon approves 2-month extension of National Guard forces in DC. Why? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. We'd ask Psaki for clarification on that, but he'd rather tell you that the president is not taking questions at this time. The Pentagon Tuesday evening announced Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin's approval of the request by U.S. Capitol Police for a 2-month extension of National Guard troops through May 23rd. Wow, they were only asking for a month, but they just figured, hey, fuck, the kids are there already, so we might as well just keep them. The number of troops will be reduced, however, from approximately 5,000 to 2,300 between mid-March and late May. Oh, it's supposed to be 5,000 through the end of March, so that's, I guess, an improvement, but it's still highly unnecessary. Nearly 2,300 National Guards personnel will continue to support the mission. This represents a reduction of nearly 50% of the current support force. This decision was made after thorough review of the request and after close consideration of its potential impact on readiness, Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby said in a statement. His statement added number will reduce further as conditions allow. Well, why did they get the extension to begin with? Okay, because you wouldn't have to be ramping down the amount of troops based on any current threats, because there hasn't been any credible ones. During this extended period, the Department of Defense officials will work with U.S. Capitol Police to incrementally reduce the National Guard footprint as conditions allow. We thank the National Guard for its support throughout this mission, as well as the significant efforts across the nation in combating the COVID-19 pandemic. So now the National Guard aren't actually there for any domestic terror concerns. They're there to help with the COVID pandemic. Go fuck your hat. This is retarded. But also, we're having more questions as to why they're there, because Tommy Tuberville, good man, and I hear he makes a mean phone call, kind of dropped another bomb on everybody, saying that the additional security is only protecting one side of the aisle. Funny how that's working. So Fort Pelosi provides black SUVs with Secret Service to Democrat congressmen, not Republicans. Okay. But I thought everybody's life was at danger on January 6th. Are you saying that your sacred halls of government are only sacred when you and your blue friends get to sit down, Nancy? Questions that require answers. Senator Tuberville told Breitbart News on Wednesday that Democrat representatives, not Republicans, are being provided Secret Service protection per House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's directives. The federal government built concrete barriers along the fence with razor wire surrounding the Capitol following the violent riots on January 6th, ostensibly to protect against the threat of domestic terrorism from conservative supporters of former President Donald Trump. Yes. Tuberville contrasted Washington, D.C.'s reaction to unrest on January 6th with dozens of violent and destructive leftist-driven riots in large American cities in 2020. In the last year, we had 230 riots. Holy fuck. A lot of them were very disruptive, people and police injured, and there is one here in Washington, D.C. It should have never happened on January 6th. People should go to jail. They are going to jail. Some of them are being allowed. John Earl Sullivan, the one who provided the footage to CNN, which he is a frequent contributor to, yet the Q shaman, who is also flipped and he's proving to be just as psychotic as everybody figured him to be, is being held because he's some kind of a high risk for something, like skinning another small animal and wearing his pelt as headgear. Perhaps he should skin a goaltender, because I'm pretty sure that guy instinctively instead of a pelt requires a helmet. Tuberville said he and his senator colleagues have not been told one thing about any intelligence regarding threats to their security related to increased security in the nation's capital for politicians. This is all coming from the other end of the Capitol building, which is the House, Fort Pelosi. Tuberville remarked Nancy Pelosi is in charge of all of this. She was in charge of it when it happened. The chief of police and sergeant-at-arms resigned, and Pelosi should have been right behind them because she should have been on top of this. Yeah, and she also, well, to be fair, she was on top of it. She just called off the additional help that was requested by Donald Trump leading up to January 6th. And she has yet to answer for any of that, so we'll be waiting. Just don't hold your breath. He continues to go on and talk about the $1.9 trillion. That is still an amazing amount of money no matter how you slice it, and how the Democrats are just profiteering off of all of that goodwill that they've generated up to sprinkling or showering, sorry if I'm to use the proper terminology as prescribed by the Washington Post, those stimulus checks across the nation. He just says that it's a stupid waste of money. Couldn't agree more. Only 9% of it is actually going to help people, but hey, Dem's gonna dem, I suppose. They'll complain about something as trivial as Trump cutting taxes by $1,000. Nancy Pelosi will call that crumbs, and then when the $600 stimulus checks went out, that is significant. But that's just how these old establishment Dems roll. Like, the Democratic Party was way different back in the day, and perhaps they were always bad people. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that Republicans are always great people either. Trust me, a vast majority of them suck dick. Tuberville's not one of them. And him coming out saying that just means that somebody at some point in the Democratic Party's leadership cabal is going to have to answer for this. They're going to have to answer for why they aren't providing the additional security that they apparently need, because domestic terrorism is literally everywhere, and white supremacy, even though all of them, Pelosi, Schumer, and Biden, make Casper the Ghost look like a beacon of tanning technology. It just goes to show their hypocrisy. And we see that with, yes, the additional security at the Capitol, setting up barriers and boundaries there. And then at the same time, those people who were constantly screeching about Trump's border wall, setting up their own border wall within the United States and not seeing any problem with that. So I guess the underlying message of this is leftists are hypocrites. And if that is a shock to you, well, I'm just going to give you a heads up. And the next time that you draw on the Sixth Sense, make sure you keep an eye on that Bruce Willis guy. I don't think he's quite on the level. With that said, I thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.